Representing Crusoe Affiliated is Mr. Bryce Ross, Vice President, one of the Vice Presidents. And we have Diane Nygaard with Preserve Calavera. And then can we give them both a round of applause?
Thank you, Bob. It's a pleasure to be here with Demco today and share a little bit about the 8515 plan. I'm going to open up with a fundamental question, and I'm going to revisit it in a moment. What does open space mean to you? Okay, I'm going to come back to that. A little bit about Crusoe Affiliated. As a company, we're privately held, we have no shareholders, no outside investors, and that allows us to do some pretty special things, like the 8515 plan, because we have a long-term view, a 100-year view. So we don't worry about short-term profits. We never sell a property. We just always do things right from the start. And it allows us to create some really unique gathering places for the community. Okay, so back to the question, what does open space mean to you? And what we learned from meetings with over 6,000 members of the Carlsbad community now is that open space means raw land, agriculture land, free from buildings, free from development, protected so that for public access, while also having thoughtful public access so that the community can enjoy that land. They also told us that ensuring that wildlife in the watershed and the area within the HMP are protected is important. Now the HMP, as you know, is already there, but the rest of this land is not accessible to the public. In fact, if you drive up and down Cannon Road today, you see nothing but no trespassing signs. So who is familiar with Prop D? Anybody? Yeah? So a handful of us are, that's good. What Prop D did, and what many folks don't know, is that the land in blue here, the 48 acres that's adjacent to the 5 in Canyon Road, that 48 acres prior to Prop D was zoned for tourist serving commercial, so for commercial uses. The land to the east, Prop D made it open space. And a lot of folks in the community believe that open space means the definition that I just described the Carlsbad residents feel that open space is, meaning free from land, free from development. But that's not what Prop D did. Prop D changed the general plan designation to call this land in green, that's 155 acres north of Cannon Road, and some of the flower fields south of Cannon Road, as an open space. And what it says is, as long as agriculture is sustainable and viable, that will remain. And then afterwards, all kinds of civic uses, like museums and libraries and art galleries and community centers, aquariums, civic buildings like City Hall are allowable within that open space. When the folks in Carlsbad learn that, everyone is like, well, wait, that's not open space. That's not the definition that we feel open space is. So the 8515 plan will correct that. It'll send it back to your definition. And how do we know that? Because we've done a lot of community outreach. We've literally talked to 6,000 members or more of the Carlsbad community. At the time that we put the 8515 plan together, we talked to 4,000 members of the community. And that continues today. We're doing things like bus tours to the Grove, so you can see what we do with our retail properties that we have and why it's different than anything that you've experienced before. We do community meetings every single week. In fact, next week we have 4 community meetings, plus open space tours and bus tours to the Grove. So if there's folks out there that have ideas or thoughts or criticisms, we want to meet and we want to hear your thoughts because we think that we can make the plan better with your feedback. That's always been our approach from day one, and it always will be. What did we learn? We learned that Carlsbad loves open space, but they love the open space definition that you told us, not that Prop D put onto the land. We also learned that you want to protect the lagoons, you want to protect wildlife, you want to protect the habitat. What's happened today, because there's no trespassing along Cannon Road, is lots of folks in the community have taken upon themselves to walk into that land, walk into the HMP area, which many of you know is a line that's designated to protect habitat and wildlife, and they take it upon themselves to walk into that space, disturbing the habitat, which pushes the wildlife out. We'll correct that with the 8515 plan with private funding, and I'll get into that into the Q&A. We also learned that Carlsbad residents love the strawberry fields. Now at one point, back in the 50s, 110 acres of this land was farmed for strawberries by the Carlsbad Strawberry Company. They're down to 30 today because it's not sustainable. They can't make it because of the high cost of water, labor, and commercial market pressures. And that's why they've endorsed the 8515 plan. Jimmy Yukagawa has endorsed the plan because it allows him to be sustainable. In fact, he will double with the plan, and he worries that he won't be able to survive farming that land without the plan. We also learned that you want quality retail and restaurants. Carlsbad residents will tell you, and the studies show, that Carlsbad residents have to drive to La Jolla, drive to Orange County for quality shopping and dining. And Carlsbad is losing revenue as a result. And that's why so many folks in the community are excited about the plan as well. And ultimately, Carlsbad loves to come together as a community and are looking for another opportunity to stay in the community, to come together as friends and family. Now this land, I spoke about it a few moments ago. This is the property 4 years ago when I first came to Carlsbad and our company first came to Carlsbad that we were really focused on. It was the commercial piece. But through all that community outreach, we learned that Carlsbad wanted two things. You wanted open space, you wanted access to that open space, and you wanted a great place to come together as friends and family. And that's what the 8515 plan responds to. We actually took the 48-acre piece that's now labeled 15%, and we cut it in half. So we take the commercially zoned land from 48 acres down to 26. We take the difference and we add it to open space. And we take all of that 176 acres, or 85%, and we change it back to your definition of open space, which makes agriculture sustainable, so that, again, it's there for generations to come, and it actually will double. They'll be able to do some really cool things like grow organic crops, because large swaths of that land haven't been farmed in more than 3 to 5 years. With the plan, we'll actually acquire all of this land, all 203 acres, and we'll take 155 of it and dedicate it to a land trust or land conservancy at no cost to the Carlsbad residents. We're going to improve it with up to 3 miles of trails, with lagoon vistas, with picnic areas. We're going to go in and restore a lot of the disturbed habitat areas. In fact, areas of agricultural land that are no longer viable will actually be restored back to preserve area. We'll take out the non-native and invasive plants and reestablish native plants to support wildlife. Now all that grows the HMP area, so it's even better for the habitat and the wildlife around the lagoon. And all of this is privately funded. A last point that's really important on this is all of this comes at once. There's no phase. It's all one phase. We have to do everything within the open space before we can open the visitor serving commercial. So there's all kinds of checks and balances in the plan. Now some folks may say, well, how do we know it's always going to be open space? Because we're going to dedicate it to a land trust or land conservancy. We're going to put a deed restriction on the land that limits it to your definition of open space. We're going to give the City of Carlsbad and the Coastal Commission an open space easement. And we're going to fund all of its operation and maintenance in perpetuity. So all of those things ensure that that land is never anything but open space. So some details of the plan. Again, 85% or 176 acres will finally, after 70 years, be accessible to the public. Continuation of agriculture. The plan will ensure that agriculture continues on this property and make it economically viable. We'll be able to do some really cool things like farm-to-table restaurants. All of the produce that's grown on the property will be sold on the property, as well as available at farm-to-table restaurants, so you can actually eat what's grown on the property. That's pretty cool. Up to 2.5 to 3 miles of new trails are going to be privately funded by us. We talked about the picnic areas. We're going to have an outdoor classroom for the Lagoon Foundation, who's also endorsed the plan, so that the children in the community and the schools in the Carlsbad community can actually learn about the watershed and the open space within the open space. All of the water that flows from the commercial component of the property will flow through modern desiltation and water filtration basins to make sure that the water is flowing into the lagoon are as clean as they can be. And equally importantly, everything that we do within the plan has to be consistent with Carlsbad's planning and development standards. So some folks have raised concerns, well, it takes control out of the city. That's not true. The planning department in the city will have to review our engineering drawings, will have to review our plans, ensure consistency, and then secondly, before we can get a development permit, the Coastal Commission will go through a second environmental review process and issue a coastal development permit, which we all know how rigorous coastal can be. This is a good plan. This is a community-based plan. Traffic. We're going to fund over $8 million private funding for traffic improvements throughout the city. Many of those improvements we would normally have to pay 1 to 5% of. We're going to pay 100%. We take traffic very seriously. We want to make sure the moment that you leave your door to the moment that you go to a different destination in Carlsbad or you come to us, that you have a good experience. All of these folks, the Union Tribune, the Lagoon Foundation, Carlsbad Strawberry Company, the San Diego Farm Bureau, the Chamber of Commerce, a handful of planning commissioners, in fact 2 handfuls of planning commissioners, and thousands of Carlsbad residents have all endorsed the plan. So a lot of folks have come to community meetings and have seen our site plan and given us feedback on it. This is the plan. It's available on our website. Here's a blow-up of the plan. This is the retail promenade. It's open air. We want you to have once you visit us, we want you to get out of your car. And you want to park once, whether you're coming to the visitor retail, the U-Pick, the strawberry fields, the open space trails, you name it. We want you to get out of your car. We also will have a free bike program, so that if you're visiting us, you can check out a bike and again stay out of your car and visit other destinations within the city. I'm going to flip through some pictures that will show the feedback that we received from the community. I'm done. Thank you.
So this is Diane Nygaard from Caldera, Reserve Caldera.
Nobody said it.
Good morning, Democrats. I always love it when Esther does that to start meetings. Of course, we all want this legacy of wonderful open space for our community. We all want that. But this initiative is not about open space. What it is about is a 585,000 square foot shopping center plopped right down next to our priceless coastal lagoon. So let's make sure that that's part of the project that we're really paying some attention to. That open space is already permanently protected as open space. Let's talk about the rest of it. Don't we all want vibrant commercial centers for our communities? This is what Westfield hoped to do with their mall, a $300 investment in this area. Company stores, the Forum, the Village, we all want that. Imagine what happens to these existing businesses when this huge project comes to town. We've got 3 primary concerns about this. Who decides what gets built in our community? In this case, it's an LA developer. Who should have the power about this? The initiative process was intended to give power to the people. And we're going to touch on a couple of the specific concerns about the project. Now, I don't know how many of you have signed the petition, but how many of you read the 397 pages that actually were part of the document? Most initiatives we sign are a few paragraphs long, maybe a few pages. This one locks in 397 pages. Do you vote yes or no? You're saying 100% exactly that way. That's a mandate of the people. What's in those 397 pages? Well, I expect we don't quite know yet. It's not pretty pictures. That's an artist's rendering. It's not what people say at community meetings. It is what is in that document. That's what's binding. And what that document does, and this process does, is it completely bypasses all the normal review any project would go through. The people of Carlsbad have got high standards. They care about these things. That's why they have a thorough review process for any development in the city. Every other project has gone through it, except this one. This one is, Caruso has used the initiative process for a couple of other projects. We might wonder, why would you want to bypass normal review? And for us, as a conservation organization, the big concern is CEQA. All of the normal environmental protections given to us by laws of the state of California. So we get to know how this impacts our health, our safety, our environment. Completely bypassed. Now they say their environmental assessment, oh, it's the same thing. Excuse me. They don't have to respond to our comments. This is not an agency review. It's not an independent third-party review that we get with CEQA. It's them doing the studies and them rubber stamping and saying, yeah, gosh, looks good to us. We kind of consider that the fox in the hen house, and it's not just the fox in the hen house, it's fox in the hen house inviting all of his friends to come in too. But one of our greatest concerns about this process is ministerial review. A lot of people ask, well, what does that mean? What it means is, when they get to submit their plans for this project, and we haven't seen any plans, there's no engineering drawings, there's no plans, this is an artist drawing, that's not a project plan. When they submit the actual plans, lost my track there. Submit the plans. The ministerial review means a staff person in the city of Carlsbad reviews and signs off on it. It doesn't go through a public process. It doesn't go to the planning commission. In fact, the city staff told the planning commission a couple weeks ago, you will never see this project. It doesn't go through that kind of process. It doesn't go through the city council. But it goes through a complete ministerial review. There is no discretion as long as what they submit is consistent with that 397-page document. That's what we get. None of the normal give and take that makes sure a project fits with our community. The initiative process. Now, how many people here believe that those TV ads and slick mailers have been paid for by citizens of Carlsbad? I mean, this is a developer bought and paid for initiative process. We all know what a real initiative process is like. The citizens of Carlsbad did that with the strawberry fields years ago. Oceanside did it with the mobile home park. We know what a real citizen initiative process is like. That's not what this is. Now, how much do we all love our traffic? Like, how much do we all love that? Well, we did touch a little bit on that, but let me tell you a little bit more of the story on traffic. That's what everybody keeps saying to us. What's the traffic going to be like? We know what it's like today. Could be like LA. This project is about the same size as the Grove Shopping Center in LA. 18 million visitors a year. Almost the same as Disneyland. That's what we're talking about. Disneyland, right here next to our lagoon. Their studies say 36,684 vehicle trips per day. Think about that number, 36,000 a day. But then they start doing adjustments. Oh, we're going to take 10% off because people can move around on the side. Oh, 11% because people are already on Cannon Road. Oh, 15% because they're on nearby roads. It's not an extra trip. Oh, 6% because there's a bus stop and people can ride their bicycles. I'm sure if they kept going long enough, we might end up with 0 trips. But that's not reality. We know there's going to be huge impacts. In fact, the congestion on I-5 is documented. There'll be a degradation in the level of congestion all the way from La Costa Avenue to Tamarack. How are they going to fix that? They're going to give money to Caltrans to widen the freeway. Now, how many years have we heard about Caltrans widening I-5? How many years has it been in litigation? How many years before it gets built, if ever? This shopping center, they're talking about having opened in 2 years. Where does that leave us? Don't hold your breath for the freeway expansion, but do hold your breath for this. One thing they're experts and we agree on, this project is going to cause terrible air pollution. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, every family didn't have a kid with asthma, and our seniors didn't walk around with oxygen tanks. This is a serious issue for all of us. And their study confirms that they'll exceed the thresholds for air pollution, but this doesn't exceed it just a little bit. We're talking for some of the measures 8 times the threshold air quality pollutants as are allowed. We got the study in the back there that shows that. Have they done some things to try to mitigate that? Yes. Did they make a good faith effort to do that? Absolutely not. And we still have to breathe that air. Okay, now Mike Bullock will kill us if we can't say what this is. Who can tell me what that is? Oh, I'm so disappointed in you. It's a Keeling curve. It shows what's happening to our global greenhouse gases. We get to 400, it's a tripping point. 350 is the goal. This club cares about climate change. We know about the devastating impacts. That's why we supported resolutions to improve it in the state. This project causes 33,076 metric tons of greenhouse gases per year. 33,076 tons a year. Imagine that. We have to do better than this. Our supporters are, I'd say it's a list as long as theirs, including thousands of people in Carlsbad, starting with the League of Women Voters, who's raised concerns about this kind of process and how it bypasses the people and good governance, all the way to us at Demco, who at our meeting last month says, we need to fix this. I got 2 questions for Bryce. Bryce, do you believe in democracy? And if so, will you come with us to the city council meeting on Tuesday night and join us in asking the mayor and city council to let the people vote?
Yes.